I'm going to review Microsoft, AMD, and Netflix. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can learn how to get this Chrome extension that I use to be able to unlock different flips in terms of the S&P 500. And when we look at these tiles being red or being green, that means they flip bullish or bearish. And they're all holdings in the S&P 500. So we're looking here at AMD. What I mean when I say that it flipped bearish, why on the Swift Trading Chrome extension is it red? The reason why is because you have two bearish in a row here on the trend indicator. Now, when we look specifically at AMD, we can tell that, yes, today was a good day. It was up 2.6%. But when we look at this chart underneath, which is a 9-month chart, essentially AMD peaked here in May and it peaked here in June. It's been going down to sideways ever since. So, I mean, over 3 months nearly, we've been essentially doing nothing but finding more supply in the market and seeing that demand has been waning. Now, we can see right now that it is up, again, 2.63% in just one day, but we're still down on 5-day, 15-day, 1 month, 3 month. Across the board, from signals perspective, we have a go short in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term. And now we've got longer term bearishness, which is showing up with that short term bearishness. If we go ahead and look at the weekly data, though, through the end of last week, actually AMD looks kind of decent. I mean, it does work for one of the first times in a while, has a rolling negative 5-week return. It obviously, if we were looking at an updated price through the 21st today, we'd see that the price is up above a 108. So this would be an up week if it closed right now. Looking at the weekly signals, we don't have it go long. We also don't have it go short. We are still bullish on the trend from a short-term, intermediate, and longer-term perspective. In terms of the weekly data, if we go back and we look kind of at what the trade ranges are for AMD on the weekly through last week, what we can see is that the top would be at 137. I mean, that is quite a ways from right now where we are in terms of thinking that you could be at 107, 105. We're at 108 right now, so it looks like we could really be in a nice situation because we could go up from here, we could go down, but at least the top of the range is essentially kind of leveling out. We are at 137. I don't want to see it come down, but you think it's got to consolidate the gains that it had from October of 2022 all the way into May of 2023. And you look at the daily trade range here, essentially what we have is with very small volatility in AMD, where now the top of the range is at 119 and the bottom of the range is at 102. Now, 102 is lower than it has been when it was up at 106 in the beginning of August, but it's still quite higher than we were when you think about where we were coming from in June. So that's positive to see. We could see some very positive things on AMD, but for now, it is at least flip bearish, and we want to be conscious of that. Now, we will go look at what we have here. I think the other one, I just want to make sure. We'll be looking at Microsoft. Microsoft as well, obviously one of the largest components in the entire market, one of the larger stocks. Makes up a large part of the S&P. It's going to be a large part of almost every single ETF, every single mutual fund. Essentially anything that is a broad basket of the overall U.S. market is probably going to have Microsoft deeply embedded in it. If not, it's going to be related to a bunch of companies that also are impacted by Microsoft's actions. So when we look at the price here, we can see on this weekly or on the daily chart here, that we can see that the price has essentially been moving up and to the right. You can see that we've had a little bit of a pullback. It looks like what was this high? The high here was July 19th. We've essentially been on a move down ever since. We did go positive today a little bit, but we're still negative on the 5-day, 15-day, and 1 month. Still positive on the 3 month, still positive on the 6 month. The price is, again, for one of the first times in a long time, above the 5-day moving average. You can see that that's a big deal. It still isn't above its 23-day moving average, but you could definitely see it move above. We still have the go short signals in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term. We do see that we've had quite a smattering of bearishness in terms of the short term and intermediate term. We've been flipping bearish and flipping bullish in the longer term. You see here, flip bearish initially. That was on August 4th and August 7th. Then the way that it works is that you only would flip if you got 2 in a row. So this bearishness would have given a signal. This bearishness would have stayed. Bearishness would have stayed. We would have flipped this day here. We would have actually flipped positive on the 15th, which is interesting to think that that's when it would have flipped positive at 321, which is essentially where it is today. And today we flip bearish. So I'll be very curious to see what Microsoft does from this level, because I think if we look at this on the weekly as well, this has what appears to be now a rolling 3 weeks in a row of 5-week negative returns. Now that from a weekly perspective doesn't have to be a big deal, because we were looking at prices around 343, 345. Now we're at 316. It's actually a very healthy place to be. We have obviously fallen below the 5-week moving average, which isn't really great, but the 5-week is still quite well above the 23-week. We are below the 23-week moving average. Not a big deal. We would like to close above that in the next week or so here. That'd be really positive. We still have a go long in the longer term signals. Still are bullish on the longer term signals. We did get a bearish in the shorter term. That's an interesting thing to see. We haven't really seen that in quite a while. since really the beginning of January was the last time that we saw any real bearishness. Beginning of January, middle of February, that was at the end of 2022. That's the last time we saw any real bearishness here in Microsoft. Now we're going to go ahead and look. What is the next one? I believe the next one is NVIDIA, or no, Netflix. We'll look at Netflix here, which also flipped bearish, which is an interesting one because Netflix has been one of those stocks that for a very long time has maintained a really good regard with a lot of FinTwit as well as a lot of retail and a lot of institutional investors. It's just been one of those darlings. It can be talked about very easily on CNBC. You can talk about very easily on Netflix or on Bloomberg, MSNBC, anything. So to see it go bearish is very interesting. So it doesn't, just from the natural chart, the way that I'm looking at it, the chart looks like it's essentially been going sideways for quite a while. We're at the bottom of the range, which is kind of cool to see. From Netflix, it looks like we've had a humongous drop in volatility, or at least a flat lining. Yeah, volatility's rate of change has really dropped. I'm going to go back and just look at the data first. We can see that we have really hit that 400 level. 400 seems to be something really important for Netflix. This is something very good to pay attention to. We're still positive on the 1 day, but we are negative on the 5 day, the 15 day, and the 1 month. We've got go short signals in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term. And it's been bearish. We're getting that flip, but it's been bullish for quite a while. Last time it was bearish, excuse me. Last time it was bearish was back in May. We're going to want to really respect this look here. This is an interesting look in NVIDIA or in Netflix. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? I will talk to you soon.